Joining me now is Texas Congressman Brian Babin. Congressman, good to see you. I first want to talk about some Republican pushback, and that concerns Mr. John Kerry, the former Secretary of State, presidential candidate, et cetera. He now has a $3 trillion portfolio on climate change. Now, this is a guy who sent almost $2 billion in cash to the terrorist Iranian government. That was pure appeasement, nothing but, of course, it didn't change their attitudes towards the United States or the world one iota. Could the same thing, I'm wondering, happen with China or India? Could he try to bribe them into doing the right thing with climate change, which, of course, is the big stickling point that many of us have with the whole Paris Accord?
Yes, indeed. I think if he's done it once, he'll certainly do it more. We've seen him dealing with during the last 4 years of the Trump administration. He's been dealing with foreign powers on a number of occasions, including the Iranians, telling them to hang on. I don't trust this guy for 1 second.
Well, he was also dead wrong on the Abraham Accords, by the way, but that's another issue. Yeah, go ahead.
That's exactly right. I think we know who's controlling the Democratic Party these days. We're seeing pushback on the Biden administration when he's trying to name a couple of folks to his cabinet. Of course, John Kerry is already terrorist myself because of the hypocrisy that we've seen out of him the last 4 years. But the radical wing of the Democratic Party is controlling them. The AOC squad and that bunch, they're going to have to be. They'll have to pay attention to these people.
Yeah. Well, let me just forgive me, Congressman. Let me just focus on a couple of the targets that AOC has in mind. One is Michelle Flourney. She's recognized as being kind of a tough hawk in some circles because of her views on Iraq. She could be the next Secretary of Defense. And then there's Antony Blinken, who's been targeted, who's been tapped as the Secretary of State. Some people thought that he was too much of a hawk because he was in favor of giving the Ukrainians weapons that eventually the Trump administration did give, offensive weapons to the Ukrainians to use against the Russians for their invasion. So what do you think about this? How will Biden end up pleasing the radicals, or will he avoid the radicals on these questions?
I think he's going to have to listen to his radical base. He will have to. And, there are some moderate Democrats. There's no question about it, but that's not who runs the show. And quite frankly, today, after watching Rudy Giuliani and the hearing in Pennsylvania and Gettysburg, I can tell you this race is not over yet. I'm convinced, as we heard some of the things that came out in this thing today, of vote spikes of 600,000 plus votes voting for one man, Joe Biden, and out of that 600,000, 570,000 went for Joe Biden. It just incredible things. We've got to have some answers. This is not about one man, David. This is not about one election. Yeah. This is about the preservation of our great republic, the peaceful transfer of power. If we don't have a confidence in our election process, then the consequences are going to be very dire for our country. And
I appreciate
155
that.
Years ago, Gettysburg was a turning point in the greatest conflict this country has ever been in. And I think today we may see historians in the future say this Gettysburg today, this hearing may be a turning point in the fight to preserve our great republic.
Well, I'm going to be talking about the Dominion voting machines in the next segment with Charlie Hurt, so we will get that. But a final point on Biden's picks is this guy named Bruce Reed, who apparently wants to give the job of the OMB director to. There's a petition out against him, calling him a deficit hawk. Of course, AOC and the others prefer, just spend trillions. It's only money. You can always print more of it if you need it without any consequence. Do you think that here again, Biden will concede to the left, or does Bruce Reed have a real chance of being the OMB director?
Well, I'm happy to see a Bruce Reed being appointed, at least an attempt to. He was Biden's former chief of staff, from what I understand. But I'm not holding my breath to see how long Biden holds out against the squad and the radical progressives. to try to get a Bruce Reed in there rather than something, somebody of the same caliber as Bernie Sanders. Of course, I know they're pushing back on him as well. They want to keep him in the Senate. But they want to have their way. They want radicals. They want a socialist takeover of this country, open borders, government-controlled health care, defunding the police. And the American people spoke loud and clear. 73 million Americans voted against that nonsense. And so let's see what happens. I think that the tail of the radical wing of the Democratic Party is wagging the dog. Yeah. That's what it looks like.
By the way, it's more like 74 million, but who's picking numbers here?
That's right.
I just got to say, imagine Bernie Sanders, socialist Bernie Sanders, being in charge of the budget. That would be an incredible thing to see. I never thought I'd live to see the day.
It doesn't make me sleep soundly at night, that's for sure, Dave.
No, it doesn't. Congressman Brian Babin, great to see you again, sir. Thank you for coming in. Appreciate it.